My name is Scott Benson, and this is my resume up here. Your program will say Joe Bidwell. Joe left the company a couple, 3 weeks ago. So as they say, I'm the draft pick to be named later. So that's who I am. I've spent a lot of years in the construction industry. It started when I was a very young person. My dad was an iron worker in Chicago, so he was a union iron worker. So I grew up seeing plans in the back of his pickup truck and all kinds of stuff that you would to reinforce concrete. So I worked with him one summer. That was all the incentive I needed to stay in college. So, yeah, it was definitely something that I did not want to go out and do what he did to raise us. So I elected to stay in college, and made me a glutton for punishment about right there. I did earn my degree in architecture. When you graduate, you know one thing, and that's how to get to studio and produce work, and you leave. So I wanted to know a little more. So then after I graduated, I went back to school and stayed in school for a while. So really what that does, it allows me to bring all these parts and pieces in here and talk to you guys about expansion joints. So that's what we'll do for the next little while. So just so you know, Balco is a local company here in Wichita. The manufacturing, nearly 100% of it is done here. And what I do for Balco, I work with architects and engineers. I do the same thing for one of our sister companies called Rector Seal. It's fire stopping. They're a Houston-based company. Someday I'll have Greco aluminum railings responsibility too. So when I go into an architect's office, I'll say, hey, I have this, this, and this. Here's my portfolio. How can I help you guys? And then one of our other companies is Smoke Guard. If you're familiar with them, they make a very unique product that has a curtain that comes down to keep smoke either in your room or from coming into your room. Elevators, things like that. It's pretty cool. But we're all held by one umbrella called CSW Industrials, and that's a Dallas, Texas company. So we all sit underneath that umbrella, and now we've started to share tasks within these companies. So I've been working with Rector Seal and for Rector Seal for almost 5 years. And then back in October of the year that just passed, they said, hey, we're going live, you're going to have dual responsibility. Here's what you're going to do. So they started training us on expansion joints. So we'll talk about expansion joints in this session. Balco also manufactures floor mats and grates. So when you walk into a room and your feet are shuffling across in the foyer or vestibule on that abrasive material, knocking the pebbles off your shoes, they also manufacture that. Stair nosings, and they also manufacture photoluminescent items. Those are all different stories to talk about. They all have their 45-minute segments. So if that's something later on down the year you want to learn more about, just let me know. We'll take care of it. So this is an AIA session. So we'll go ahead and get started. Here are our objectives. We'll cruise through these things in the next 35, 40 minutes. I have a lot of parts and pieces up here. This guy being too heavy to pass around, but I'll move it over here towards the center in just a moment. But the rest of them, they're pliable. They're fairly harmless to handle. No sharp edges except on maybe the aluminum products. So we'll take a look at these as well. If you want me to pass them around, we will. If you don't want to see them, I'll just lay them out here and you can take a look at them whenever you feel like. But expansion joints, they're going into commercial projects. Just about every commercial project, buildings like this, airports are huge. Large hotels, resorts, those types of things, any type of commercial project, and some single-family homes, believe it or not, will get an expansion joint. What does it do? It allows the building to move. Temperature swings, storms, the earth moving, all of these things can happen. So what you have is you have one large building broken up into several different pieces so they can move independently, is what the expansion joint will do. So, and that's to conform with the adjacent materials. So it's not just this material we want to talk about. We want to talk about all the other materials around it as well. And that assembly, we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Support the required traffic elements is something big. We'll see an issue that came up with a project here in just a little bit. And then, of course, the most important ones provide life safety. Fire ratings can be added to these items as well, so we'll talk about that. That's more towards the end of the session, but we'll go ahead and talk about it also. So now, joint sizes and movements. This little chart here stated that anywhere between 1 and 4 inches is thermal movement. Some can argue that. You can say really up to 2 inches is a caulk joint. In California it is, because that's what they do. If it's 2 inches, a lot of times they're just filling it with caulk. Of course, that's probably a tube of caulk every foot, but that's okay because we sell sealants also. So that's good. But they have other seismic movements that go from 5 up to 24 inches. Is 24 inches the maximum? No. It can go well beyond that. So, I was looking through our catalog yesterday. They did a great job creating this catalog for us. And I'm looking through it and I'm going, well, everything's stopping at 8 inches. Everything's stopping at 12 inches. Why? And they go, oh, don't worry about that, because we've done up to 36 and 40 inches before. All you have to do is talk to us about it. So when you see things like this in these catalogs, and they're showing you their maximum dimensions that they can do, don't worry about that. Draw what you want to, and then let us figure that out. And then if we can't, then we'll come back to you and say, all right, well, here's our limitation on this condition. We'll take it from there. But that's what makes the job fun, the challenges. So now, I'm originally from Chicago. I live in the St. Louis area. So I always do things to keep your attention. So how do you divide up a building and show it? So I just showed a block of cheese. It's a piece of California cheese. It's not from Wisconsin because I'm a Bears fan. And we don't like the green and yellow team from Wisconsin, so 11 months out of the year we don't acknowledge them. February just ended, so now I'm into the we don't acknowledge them phase. So here's what they do. They take this one large building, create sections, let the pieces move independently, but cover all of the gaps. So that's what we're going to do. But it goes through the floors, the interior, the exterior walls, all the way through the ceiling is what you have to do. So now, is it a straight line? Is it one simple array? Not all the time. Tony and I were this is Tony Hull, a co-worker of mine in Wichita. He came over to answer the really hard questions. So challenge this guy. But we were just talking about this and slicing through. I showed it as a straight line, but it's truly not what's going on in the design world now. Now they want irregular shapes. And so now the line doesn't go straight through the building. It'll go this way and turn, make a 45-degree angle, make another turn, do all these things. So it creates more challenges for Tony, for us, and for the architectural world. And then for contractors to actually build it and install it. So now, here's what you can choose from. Again, the slice goes right through the building, from the floor, to the walls, through the roof. And then, oh, by the way, you got to park cars next to it. So there's also parking deck assemblies. So now, here's that divide through the building. It must be in Las Vegas because it's some pretty gaudy carpet. So it must be a casino in Vegas. But here, they're showing the slice right through the building, not trying to hide anything. It's very obvious. So now when you're dragging your luggage across that cover, plunk, makes that noise, of course. You know you're going over an expansion joint. But does it have to be as obvious as that? It does not. There are components that we put into the assemblies that can hide these things. Make them a little less noticeable is what makes it great. So, some different types. There's elastomeric products. You can work with something like this. This will have other parts and pieces to it, but this is what they're seeing. Comes in many different colors. Custom colors are possible, it just depends. But it's always something that you can ask, but this is just typical black. All right. This is a Sanaprene material. Silicones are available, EPDMs, other things like that are still available. But I'll go ahead and send this around. You'll get an idea of what this is. A lot of this is used in, can be used in floors. It's used in walls quite a bit. So floors, a couple different types. The other type is the one on the right, more of a straight aluminum system. That's what this is. It's all put together. You can mess with this one. It's not a static piece, so you can accordion it, watch all the parts and pieces move. We'll go over the names for these parts and pieces in just a minute. These are all systems that would be recessed into their areas. You also have surface mounted. So if there was something where you had an existing project, everything's in place already. All you can do is come in, you don't want to hammer out and re-pour concrete and all that. They have surface mounted systems that you can just set and place right on top of the concrete or whatever the substrate is. And then also there's a heavier systems. This happens to be for a garage. And it shows the fire capabilities of this. Its ability to stop the spread of smoke and flames. So these things are all available. So now here's a picture of what's going around right now. A couple of terms. You have a cover plate. You have a center bar. And if you look right down the edge of that, you'll see a center bar inside there. And as that is accordioning back and forth, that center bar comes into play. So that's what holds everything together. So once it expands, it can also contract and come back. Then you have the base member, and that's that bottom piece. That is recessed into the concrete. So you have the concrete here, they have a block out, and all of that assembly is installed after the fact. So they pour all this concrete, they pull the block outs out. Later on in the construction phase, they can go ahead and install the assembly. So now, this just happens to be a different assembly down here, but the same thing. It's a recessed part right here. So the base member cover plate, this doesn't have a center bar, just a different system, as opposed to a cast in place. The problem with the cast in place is that really the problem is you have to cast it in place. That's the issue with it, because now it's in place. Years go down, something happened, maybe they had an earthquake, it damaged the assembly. So now you have to remove it. That cast in place is going to be very, very difficult to remove and try and replace. Where the simple recess system, pull the fasteners, remove all the parts that are bad, replace them with new parts, put your fasteners back in, and you're ready to go. That would be much, much more difficult than a cast in place. So we really don't see cast in place done very often at all. Do you have any idea what the percentage of business would be covered within a few single percentage points?
1%.
1%. Yeah. So it's almost never done. There would be that unique time where you would use a cast in place, but it doesn't happen very often. Finishes. Really any type of finish that you can imagine is available in colors. You could go with a brass cover, kind of soft, but you bronze, aluminum, stainless, anodized, any of these things. If you wanted it primed so it can be painted, you can do that. There are systems where a recess system, so you have one of those systems that's going around, it actually has a recess on the cover. That's so they can place the tile or the carpet right onto that cover plate. So it continues your view and it minimizes the distraction of your view with that expansion joint. I always got a kick out of wing walk. You guys know what wing walk is? What a term to put on there for a finish. Isn't it an abrasive finish?
Yeah.
That is what it is. But I don't know why they just didn't call it abrasive. That would have been a good idea. But it's something different, so they call it wing walk. I got to keep that. So now, loads. This is something that's big with expansion joints because you have pedestrian loads, you have all these different loads, heavy duty, you have vehicles rolling over top of it, gurneys in hospitals. You could have a high lift for in this convention center. You know, when you walk down the hallway here, you'll run across an expansion joint. You know, maybe they run their high lift across there. Maybe the floor is not set up for that, so they don't allow it. But it didn't stop them in this building from running over top of that cover. So now if you notice, it is a concave shape. That's because it wasn't specified properly, or if it was, and it was probably specified properly, and then somebody took something that wasn't supposed to go down that hallway and drove over top of it. So maybe they weren't supposed to drive a forklift across that. They did concave the cover. So specifying and having the occupants stick to that is always going to be a challenge. So here's a chart that was created. It's on the last page of our catalog. But here you can see when the design loads are created, a pedestrian is a 300-pound live load with a 2x2 space that they're occupying when they walk. All right, and then you can go right down the list. You can see all the other things. So that picture prior, they probably specified this, and somebody did this. And that's a bad thing in our industry. Can it be fixed? Absolutely. So all those parts and pieces can be removed, primarily the cover plate, maybe the center bar. And then they'll reattach thicker cover plate, something like that, to make that joint better and to make it so they can drive their scissor lift across that. What do we have? Interior walls and ceilings. So we're looking at the same thing. Here's another part that you can work with. We'll send this around here in just a second. But really you're looking at the same parts and pieces. Maybe more dense, more durable, thicker, same thing. You have your EPDM silicone Santoprines, you have your aluminum covers, surface mounted, flexible types, all of those things are available. So let's take a look at those. Here, we're looking at a picture here where the aluminum cover plate is coming up to a Santoprene wall condition. So you have to be able to transition that properly. We'll show you the drawings for those because we'll give you a drawing of the floor system, give you a drawing of the wall system, give you a drawing of how they transition to each other because they have to still sit there in harmony because they're all going to move around independently. So we'll show you that drawing as well. But some of the things you have to look at if you choose to use something like this, I'll go ahead and send that around. First of all, you have to deal with the substrate. Steel studs, concrete, wood, possibility. But also vandal resistant and tamper proof. So if you're going to have something like this in the hallway of the high school, be ready because as our little darlings are standing there with nothing to do between passing periods, they have their pen or their knife out and they're picking at this kind of stuff. All right, it's not going to withstand that. So these things have to be taken into consideration. So that would be one condition where you would not want that in a high school hallway, for example. Use a metal system similar to this or that. And then, of course, colors, which we alluded to earlier. All of these colors are available. If there's something that you don't see in a color chart, all you have to do is ask your manufacturer because most likely they have custom capabilities. If they don't, go ask a different manufacturer. So now, with your exterior walls, exposure to the elements, they're huge. Santoprene's great on the outside, but silicone is better. So if you had a silicone exterior joint, it's going to withstand the elements. Wind, rain, the sun is a big part of it. But you have to take those things into consideration. Here's a shot of the exterior walls. Really, you're looking at that first piece that I sent around. This is what you're looking at here. I pulled it out of the frame itself. But they're using silicone here. Again, the best benefit for silicone is sun exposure. The second best thing about silicone is you can do very, very long runs. So you can do up to 100 feet with one piece of silicone. There's no joints. The joints, obviously, you can let water in at times. You never know. But you get nice long runs with a silicone product. That piece that's going around is exactly what this piece is right here. You'll notice that it has a notch on the inside. You have a nice smooth surface, you can have that notch facing in, minimizing your sealant right here and here. However, If you have a like brick, split face, anything like that, concrete block, you have a few idiosyncrasies in there. You may have some irregular shapes. All you do is take that piece, flip it around, and now you have a nice bed of caulk right there to accommodate all those changes that may occur in the construction phase. So those are pretty handy. So all of these systems are available to meet your needs. There's not just one, and you open the book and go, okay, how can we make this different to accommodate them? All of these options are available to you guys. So here is that nice straight joint running through the outside of the building. Varies very little, so we're able to use that product right there. Gives you a good look. I think it's a 6 or an 8-inch joint. I forget which one now. I think it was a 6-inch joint is what they were using. It's a project in California. But kept the characteristics of the building. It actually adds to the look of the facade. So they did a great job in that condition. So now you go through the roof. A couple different types. You can work with a metal cover, which is very similar to one of the systems we passed around, or you can work with something like this, the bellow type. So you'll have the cover. You'll also have something to catch water and run water away, should the water get through that system. What you're going to look at here, though, or what you're going to consider here, is if people are going to be on the roof, you're better off using a system like this, because if you step on that, that's bad. It's going to concave, you're going to have problems. You'll have to have somebody come out and most likely repair that expansion joint. So loads, sunlight, snow, rain, pedestrian traffic, all of these things come into play. Really, it starts from, again, the joint that goes through the floor, goes up the walls and through the ceiling. All of these same considerations are being taken into play. So now, if you have transitions, these can all be manufactured in the plant, sent out to the job site. A drawing will be created to show you all of these different transitions. And then what they do in the field, there is a kit that's provided, so then you place the straight runs together. Parking garages. These are an animal. They're heavy. We won't pass this around. You can come up and take a look at it if you like. With this system, everything's thicker, everything's bigger, everything's denser, everything's stronger for all the right reasons. That's one example. Here's some other examples right here. So now you still can use santoprene, silicone, these types of things in your systems. There is one right here. This is called a wing system because of the wings on it. This will be put into place, and the rest of the concrete is going to go over top of this. It's an elastomeric concrete that's provided in the assembly kit. But once this is put down in the concrete, they'll flow that, it's like an epoxy, but it's an elastomeric concrete over. Comes up near the edge right here. Gives you a nice smooth transition. That's just one way of installing these things. If a snowplow hit this, it would tear it out. So there's another option. Up there on the right is what they call a top deck assembly. So now it's anchored. There's a few different parts, but they'll anchor that system in. And actually those blue items, there's probably a pointer on here, but I'm not going to use it. The bluish purple items are the blocks. That's part of the assembly kit, so those got put into place. So now you don't have that elastomeric concrete. The blade is running across. It's running across those blocks, which are very, very durable. Here's the assembly right here for the aluminum types. There is a fire product that I'm going to jump to that's shown in this picture right here. So now, this is what's called a dual hinge system, because you have a hinge here, So it doesn't matter if this slab moves or this slab heaves, the dual hinge system can accommodate that. So now, if this wasn't, it was just a single hinge, this piece drops, all that angle does, all that piece of aluminum right there would do would be pop up. So now you're halting your traffic if they needed to get away or get out of that parking bed. With the dual hinge system, it will accommodate this heave or that heave nicely. But it has that fire stopping quality built into the assembly, and that's what this is. So now this is wrapped in plastic for a very, very good reason. Don't take your knife out and cut this open, because if you do, it accordions out and it'll grow probably this wide, and it'll never crush back together and get put into a plastic bag. So when they install this stuff, they do it very, very quickly. So they'll have, within the assembly, they'll place their adhesives on each side. They get this joint very, very close to where it's going. Then they cut it open and they set it down in there, and this thing just slowly continues to expand out. And once it's in place, it's done. The only way to get it out is to probably chisel it out. Would be the only way you can get it out. You can mess with it a little bit. You can collapse it a little bit. But when that opens up and swells, it becomes a very dense product. Difficult to work with, too. So here's that, let me jump forward to here. That is that material in place. 2-hour fire ratings, but it also has the silicone on each side. Is that available in Santoprene also? Is it only silicone? Just silicone. So you have your silicone in each side. So that could be the expansion joint assembly in itself. But if you need a different look, then you can cover it up and put cover plates on it, something like that. But yeah, here's just sitting within this wall in itself. And that's what's stopping the flame and the smoke. Let me jump back a little bit. A couple different types of fire stopping products. There's a ceramic fiber layer that can be placed into there. I don't travel with that because it's the itchy stuff, really itchy. So I don't travel with it. But as you can imagine, it's just a blanket that's placed into there, and you're going to stop your fire from transferring through that joint. There's other types of material. This is an intumescent material. That's what this is. So this is an intumescent layer, very flexible, easy to work with. Comes in varying widths according to the joint, but this can be placed down into there and installed with the assembly. And what this material does, being intumescent, the base of that word is to grow with heat. So now this little 1.5 millimeter layer will grow 30 times its size if you increase the heat 325 degrees above ambient. So what it's going to do, it will flood all of that joint right there with a carbon char, and that stops the transfer of flame and smoke. So a very, very unique product. And then here's something very new also. This is a foam product used in conjunction with this intumescent material. And this, we can mess with, we can accordion this. So what you would do is you would take this very lightweight, 5 foot 6 or 10? 7. 7. That's an average. So you take this 7-foot stick and you collapse it and you place it into the joint. And then you let go so it expands out. So adhesive or friction fit can be put into place. But all they're doing is putting this block into place and then placing the rest of the assembly in there. So now fire starts either on top or below the assembly joint. This material, once it gets to about 400 degrees, again 325 above ambient, that material will grow. And so it's going to flood that joint completely with that carbon char and again halt the transfer of flame and smoke. So very, very lightweight, very easy to work with. 7-foot sticks. The other foam product is a 5-foot stick, heavy. You have to be quick when you work with it. It's not necessarily like a nice drop-in like that can be. So now here's some facts for you. These are some of those things that AIE makes sure I put in on the presentations. You get different sizes of joints. Okay, so now this joint has certain terms that we use. So we have a normal or a static width. So that could be anywhere from 1 out to 36 inches. And then you have your closed dimension. Does it go down 100%? Does it go down halfway? That type of thing. But what is the closed dimension you want to work with? And then what is its open dimension, or the maximum that this joint is going to open to? We use that in determining what type of product goes into the project. You know, what's beneficial, what's best for your project. So you can have a nominal 2-inch joint. If you have 50% movement, it's going to go out to 3 inches. That'll be its maximum or its open dimension. Then you have your closed dimension all the way down to 1 inch. 100%, you would work with this normal 2-inch joint. It would go out to 4 inches, then down to near zero. Near zero because there's always going to be material in there. Close enough. So those are some of the terms to work with. There's some testing that goes on, and you can have class 1, 2, and 3 classifications with your products. Some products may meet all 3, some products don't. It depends on what you're working with. But if you need a class 2 system, what they're going to do is they're going to test that system, and they're going to cycle it a number of times. And that's what the classifications mean. So just like tires on a car. You have tires that are 30,000 mile wear out. You have tires that are 70,000 mile wear out. I bought a set of tires. I said, what's the wear out warranty? He said, nothing. So they're run flat tires. They don't put warranties on those. That's kind of disappointing. But same thing, different classifications of tires. So now here are the essentials. Questions that an architect would ask, or somebody that's working on the building and says, all right, now I need, and they say, I need an expansion joint. And they call me up. I say, okay, Scott, here's what I have. I'm going to ask them a certain number of questions. I'm going to ask them what those the top questions are. We'll go through that. That begins to narrow the focus, or create this funnel, and narrow down, and then spit something out at the bottom. A couple, 3 options, maybe one condition came out the bottom of the funnel. It depends. But that helps us in the expansion joint industry to get something that will suit your needs. What I can't do is provide you the bottom information. I can't provide you the fire rating. I can't provide you the joint size. That's information that has to come to me. And then I can get back to you and say, yes, we can do that. All right. You can't call me and say, Scott, I have this joint, but what's my fire rating? That has to come from you guys. All right. Specifications. Do you write your own specs, or do you have somebody do that for you? You write your own specs. 79500 is where expansion joints are listed. And then they go on from there in the 500 numbers. But if you don't want to do it, give me a call. I'll take care of it for you. I could write it 2 ways. I could write it where Balco is the only company that could bid the job. I can do that. Or I can make it in a proprietary spec. Or I can make it where anybody can bid the job and then let the dollars play out. You know, that's a good competitive bid. I kind of lean towards the latter and not the former, because unless I'm told. But on a public project, you have to have 3 and sometimes 4 manufacturers. So I won't play the game of, okay, here's our spec, and then it locks out everybody else. But then again, unless you ask me to do that. If you say, Scott, we like Balco, we've used it on 15 prior projects, we use the other guys, and we can't stand them. That's usually the case. But I can write the spec where only Balco can bid the project as well. All right. So that part's up to you guys. So now, here's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember me as a resource for you. I have the backing of a lot of people behind me. So I'm like the reverse funnel. I'm on the end, and they're all behind me. So when I need something, all I have to do is ask, and I get my answers. So I can then take that information to you if I can't give you an answer right away. So remember me as a resource for you. I can help you with your expansion joints, I can help you with your specifications. We can always talk aesthetics because of my background. You know, if you're going to have a bright, shiny plate in the middle of somebody's living room, they may not like that. Oversimplification, of course. Products are made in the U.S. The things that we have seen here today are made in Wichita. They're right here. They're not going anywhere. They're a wonderful sister company to have in relation to Rector Seal, because if Rector Seal doesn't have it, I can always get something here in Wichita and vice versa. So we all rely on each other, and we can also do that for your projects. And new technologies. That meta block is a great item because it's so lightweight. The installers love it. It's easy to work with. It's not heavy like the meta block product that you saw, the foam block. You know, that stuff's heavy. That's the old technology. This meta block is the new technology. All right, use that. Add Balco to your specification. Do you know if we're in your spec? Is Balco in your spec? Do you know? We are. Yeah. And there's lots of competitors out there. Strengths, weaknesses. But Balco is a great basis of design on your projects, and I can also provide you with that. So specifications, drawings, anything like that. Your project, all you have to do is send me your drawings. I'll transfer them into our technical department. And we'll all take a look at it and go, okay, here's your drawings, here's your drawings, here's your drawings. Send them back to you. That way you have a DWG, all you have to do is grab it, place it on your drawings, you're ready to go. Okay? That's what I have for you guys. Questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir.
Well, our issue is usually more of the quality control of field installation. Who shares the responsibility for which component? Especially when you're at one app, you have your double T, you're the traffic coding, is that the responsibility of?
That's always the installer.
We call it contractor, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, really the drawings that, sure, yeah, the drawings that come from us are truly a shop drawing, installation drawing. And so now, as long as it is installed properly, and you know, we're not there to point fingers and things like that, but in almost every time, it's installed properly. But, you know, sometimes it could be loading, where the loading was not figured properly. Could be. And so now we have that to contend with. You know, that could be, you know, now we need to provide different parts and pieces. So it's all a part of the warranty that comes with it. The warranty varies according to the installer. It could be a 1-year warranty. It could be a 5-year warranty. If you write in your specification that you need something different than that, if you want a 10-year warranty on this, that's something that can be considered. So it's all a matter of, you know, what's best for your project, but it's all a matter of, you know, we're going to look at this also and give our best determination with our technical staff and say, this is what you need. And you go, well, you know, we've had people that say, no, because that's too expensive. If you go the lesser route, you may have troubles. But we're going to provide you with something that you're going to be happy with most of the time. But
in the case of your masonry walls, we expect the mason to put in the block, the soft block, and our fireproofing contractor to apply the EMS. Are they going to be mirrored up, or are they going to be doing this?
yeah. Nothing ever surprises me in the business. But yeah, it could be both. But it's a matter of you know, who's installing what. So yeah. There's always attorneys that come into play, and a lot of it comes down to the barracudas and what comes out. But Balco's going to cover the product regardless of what happened, and do the best thing for the customer, because ultimately the drawings are the contract, and it's going to be what is right in that condition. So everything comes into play. I know it's kind of a big roundabout way of answering that question, but you know, there's so many depends that come into play. But we want to do what's right for the customer. What else do we have? We sliced up our cheese enough?
On those roof expansion joints?
Sure.
How do the joints, when you have a real long stretch of roof, how do the joints?
Yeah, there's a kit that it comes with, so you'll have whatever your runs are. You know, you could start from side A and run completely to side B, or they may meet in the middle. But yeah, there's a kit that comes with it. There's a foam blocker that goes underneath this. So when they're trying to lay the next one over it, they're not just, pushing down on this and not getting a good seal. There's a block that goes into there, so then they can get a nice compression seal.
That's fascinating. Adhesive?
Yes. Yeah, specifically for that. It's not a butt. It's always going to be an overlay. Yeah, here's the material where it's difficult to work with compared to the metal block.
Why is the foam different on each end? Is one of them's yellow?
Yeah, that's age.
That's age? That's
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah, this was like 4 or 5 years, about this long. Yesterday.
The same thing.
Recently?
Yeah.
It's gray on one side.
That's the first thing I
Yeah,
noticed.
well, that's the first thing I asked. I said, well, why is it gray? Because we were talking about it always being this color.
Yeah.
And I said, well, wait a minute, it's gray. It wasn't a very good cut either, but that's okay. He said the blade is dull. We'll go with that. But, yeah, and that's actually the raw color of the material, and that's what daylight does to it. Yep. I've always seen it this way. Because you look at two ends, I've never seen it that way before. But, did you ever see it that way, Tony?
Only in that sample.
Only in the sample. Yeah. But yeah, this is the marriage of a couple of companies with the product that was created, and the intumescent layer being right into there. So if you want to learn more about intumescence, I'm back up here at 1:45, which is great right after lunch. Yeah, perfect. So, but we can learn about intumescent products in fire stopping. But that's what this is doing. This is going to stop the passage of flame and smoke and gas, poisonous gases, from getting from point A to point B. But a unique, very unique product.
What makes that expand beyond the water?
This one? No, just taking it out of the package.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are limited. So you have your joint here. They literally take it, set it right there. They spray the adhesive in there, and they go, "All right, is everybody ready?" And they have all these guys ready to go, and they'll cut it open and set it in there. And once you cut it, it begins to grow.
It's pretty compressed, about 30% of your nominal joint width. So if you have a 10-inch joint, it's going to be pretty compressed at 7. The larger the joint, it's easier to work with. But once you get down into your smaller joints, your 1, 2, 3, and 4-inch joints, there's not a lot of time before it expands and compresses into the size.
What else do we have?
Is this paintable? But I noticed on your description
Yeah,
or
it's silicone, so...
it is
the-
silicone?
Yeah, the paint's not going to adhere to
So
it very,
none of-
very well.
None of these paint will adhere to them because they're mostly silicone.
That's correct. Other than the aluminum, if you want to paint that surface, then we'll send it to you primed, and it's ready for...
Do they come in other colors?
Yeah, it can be anodized.
I don't mean aluminum, but these.
Yeah, there's a couple different colors. Yeah, now like on this stuff, yeah, you can get a lot of different colors, if not a
White,
custom
beige.
color. Yeah, yep, white. If it were white, the only caution is don't put it in the floor, because it'll only be white for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the only difference, but yeah, there are, a dozen.
There's
or so.
13 standard.
Baker's dozen, yeah.
13 standard silicone colors.
And then you can do a custom color as well. Custom colors aren't bad. There's a nominal upcharge, and then the cost of the product, and it's not too bad in this industry. Yeah, but you can color match just about anything you want. Yeah.
Do you guys offer products for just paving alone, no buildings on top of it or anything? Because we use a lot of expansion joints that are paving,
Paving
like
and
a seal.
streets, and yeah, there was.
Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
not yet. That is something that we're looking into.
And-
mainly
Where you're sealing
slow-
from chemical waste and things of that nature.
Yeah, slow vehicular traffic.
Like, I mean, this would be about as close as you could get.
Yeah, that's, when I
But
saw
like,
that, that's what made me think of it.
Airport runways. You know, those would be nice because the expansion joints that they have run the length of the
Uh-huh.
runway. So you have, what, at least 2 miles in many cases of this material. So, yeah, that's something that I was to understand was being discussed.
Yeah, we use it on a lot of
With
fuel
that.
stations
Yeah.
for paving and those.
And you're here in Kansas?
Yeah. Certain code.
A lot of your work is in those 2
No,
states?
our work's all over the country.
Is it? Okay. We go there.
Yeah,
They're
and
worldwide.
I've used 2 different products, Cyclograde Streak. Was one product I've used, and another one.
Okay.
It's mostly we use Cyca, so I don't know if you guys compete with them or not. I'm guessing not. since
Yeah,
they-
no, but I bet someday we do.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, because I'm to understand that there's not a lot of companies that manufacture what you need.
Nope.
So
Cyca's
Yeah.
probably the main.
right now, they're probably doing well with their revenues.
Yeah.
So we might as well take some of that.
Right, might as well.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. What else do we have? You know, I kind of read through these kind of quick.
So as far as elastomeric joints you guys have, like you got PVC, neoprene, and silicone. So if you got a different type of materials, gypsum, concrete, etc., you got different temperature variation, thermal expansion coefficient. So is there any suggestions you can use more for concrete, one for gypsum, or they're all uniform?
My short answer is yes, but the next answer would come from Tony as far as the finer points of each joint. But yeah, I mean, all of those things are taken into consideration because if you're in a high temperature area like Phoenix and you're trying to use this elastomeric concrete, okay, and it's June and it's 109 degrees, are you allowed to pour it? You know, those kinds of things come up. So yes, the considerations come into play with all of those things because we need to make sure at that time that the job can be done. And I've worked on projects where things were scheduled and it was 35 degrees, you know, was the average temperature at that time, you know, because I'm from Chicago. And well, they couldn't go to work that day because you can't install that until you get above 50 or 55 degrees. So, yeah. You ever worked with that elastomeric concrete? Is that something you work with? Yeah. Interesting material. Yeah. And then it cures and it looks like you can just dig your fingers into it still, but it's concrete. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff. That's some of it that comes with the kit is 3-part?
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
3-part material. And you begin to mix all this stuff together. And,
They call it compound. You know.
yeah. Again, that's incentive to stay in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we have? Educational? Informative? Okay. Did everybody sign in if you need AIA credits, or if, I don't know if you guys have to sign in, period, but the sign-in sheet is back there as well. But I'll be here, my card is up here as well. Tony will be here for a little while. There's more parts and pieces that are up here as well if you want to take a look at things and bench press this thing. But we'll be here for a while if you have any other questions. But thank you, I appreciate your time very, very much. If we can ever be of any help on your project, just let us know. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.